This is Shopify Masters, the e-commerce marketing podcast for ambitious entrepreneurs. It's powered by Shopify, the easiest way to sell online, in person, and anywhere in between. To get an extended 30-day trial, visit shopify.com/masters. Hey entrepreneurs, my name is Felix and I'm the host of the Shopify Masters podcast. Each week we put out podcast interviews with successful e-commerce entrepreneurs or experts to give you inspiration, motivation, and actionable tips to increase your traffic and sales so your store can generate the sales you need to live the life you want. In the last episode, Mike Jackness from ColorIt.com revealed how he uses Amazon as a proving grounds to build a $2.5 million business. In this episode, you'll learn from an entrepreneur that used a PR agency to kickstart a £2 million business. In this episode, you'll learn what are the signals to look out for to determine if you are in a growing industry, how to use a PR agency to kickstart a marketing plan, and what you need to prepare before working with a PR agency. Today, I'm joined by Julian Hearn from Huel.com. That's Huel.com. Huel sells nutritionally complete powdered food, everything your body needs and nothing more. It was started in 2014 and based out of the UK. Welcome, Julian.
Thank you very much, Felix. Very, very pleased to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you on. So tell us a little bit more about Huel. And, what is it exactly that you sell?
It's a powdered food that contains all the vitamins, the minerals, the protein, carbs, and fats, all in a single product.
Very cool. So how did you come up with this? Like, what was the idea behind starting a business like this?
Well, I'll have to give you a little bit of a background story, but basically I ran a website in 2008, which I sold in 2011. So that previous business, that was a voucher code website. And what happened was I sold that. Did very well from the money from the sale. So I took a little bit of time out. And in 2012, I started a company called Body Hack Limited. And that company was meant to be a sort of like a fitness comparison site. We were going to try different fitness programs and different diets to see which ones worked and which ones didn't. So we were going to run various different people through these different programs to prove some works and some didn't. And you were then able to buy the program at the end of that to the ones that work, clearly. So I was one of the guinea pigs for the first one, and during that time, I did a 3-month program, and during that time, I dropped from 21% body fat down to 11% body fat, and I did no more exercise than I did before. It was just basically what I was eating that made all the difference. So I was weighing all of my food and got everything really spot on in terms of nutrition. And so a lot of my friends wanted to replicate that, wanted to do the same. And they asked me how I did it, and I told them, and I said I was eating about 5 meals a day. I was cooking all the food myself from fresh. And I was eating this type of food, mostly like animal protein, a lot of vegetables, and a little bit of carbs. And they basically said they couldn't do it. And so I sort of understood it was very tricky if you was working full time to do this. And so that business didn't really get traction. We ran that probably for about 6 months, didn't really get the traction I wanted. So I started looking around for other opportunities and just realized that the food was so important to what we eat in terms of our body composition. And my friends wanted a product. And I started thinking, well, I'm using whey protein. It's extremely convenient. It's very easy to weigh out exactly what you need and makes perfect sense. But it was only just whey protein. It's just one dimension. So I started thinking, well, why can't we put the carbs in there, the protein, the carbs, and the fats in there, and all the micronutrients into a single product? So that was a genesis of Huel.
Cool. So the business that you sold, let's go back to the beginning that you mentioned. So 2008, 2011, you ran a business. Was it in a similar industry as Body Hack and now Huel?
No, it was completely different. It was more, I suppose in America, you'd call it a coupon code website. It was an affiliate type website where basically we would collect codes in from merchants and we would display those discount codes, those coupon codes on our website. People would pick those up, go to a store and get a discount off a product. So I grew that company from scratch. I think it was about £1,500 initial investment. And in the final year, we were the profit was about £2.5 million. So I sold that and used that money for the rest of my life. I suppose I can virtually retire now if I wanted to, but I took a little bit of time out, but then I got itchy feet as a sort of entrepreneur. I wanted to go back in, and that's when I went back in and did Body Hack.
That's awesome. I mean, that's definitely a super successful business already. And was it a hard decision to sell the business? Like, what made you decide to move on from it?
It wasn't really something I was super passionate about. It was something that clearly was very profitable. It had very small overheads. So from a business perspective, it was a really super simple business. Really, just as long as you could get traffic to that site, you could earn very good money. So it was basically an SEO play. But there was a ton of competitors doing the same thing because of the advantages of the type of business. The good news, I could run it from my house for the majority of the time. Then I eventually got a fairly small office with some staff. But the downside was it was just not something I was super passionate about. I was more interested in, health and fitness was something I've always been interested in, and I wanted to do something that was, probably, trying to do good for the world rather than just a voucher code site which made money but didn't really excite me.
Okay, so you're looking for something that kind of drove you more internally. So what did you, was this like your first, I guess, coupon affiliate site that you had, was this your first entrepreneurial project, or did you have other successful businesses in the past?
Well, I think my mum showed me a photograph of me when I was about 10 years old selling flowers outside the house. I listened to a podcast the other day that you did with a guy from Lux Hair, and I think he said the same sort of thing, that when he was about 10, he was selling flowers outside his house. I think my mum used to have leftover plants in her greenhouse, and I think she used to give me those and said, why don't you go and sell those? So I'd put them up, make a little stall up and go and sell them out front of the house. So I suppose that was the first entrepreneurial thing. But really, after that, I basically went through the normal route of going to university, then getting a normal job. So really, I didn't have my first proper business until I think it was nearly 37 years old. So that was the coupon code website.
Yeah, that's. I think that's an important point to talk about. A lot of. I think it's really popular today in media, in the movies and TVs of these entrepreneurs, these startups, and you have to be eating ramen or eating instant noodles in your early 20s to run a successful business. And it's definitely a process. When you were going through these jobs or working the regular kind of, following the regular kind of path that most people go down, did you always have an entrepreneurial itch, or did you just wake up one day when you're 37 saying, I want to start a business?
I suppose I always had it in the back of my mind that I thought I could do it, but I suppose I just didn't necessarily have the role models around me. Everybody I knew was just normal working people. So I suppose I didn't see people running their own businesses and doing it themselves, and so there wasn't an example there for me. So I just thought I'd just do what everybody else is doing, just do a normal job, I don't come from a wealthy background. I needed to, pay the bills, and I needed to get my own house and pay for my own car and those types of things. And so I couldn't really see an alternative at the time. So what happened was, when I was thinking about 37, I started running the business before I left my full-time job. I started doing that in the evening for probably up to a year, pre-leaving my job, just to prove that I could do it, rather than just jacking my job in and just started a new business. I wanted to prove to myself I could do it. So I started working evenings and weekends for probably a good year before I actually left. Built the business up to certainly not very big, but enough so money was coming in the door, and thinking if I had more time, I could do this. So what we did is saved up some money, said to my wife, look, I'm going to take 6 months. I'm going to leave my job. I'm going to take 6 months to have a crack at this business. We've got enough money in the bank to pay the mortgage for 6 months and pay all our bills. At the end of that 6 months, if I'm not earning the same as my salary, then I'll go back and get a job again. That was the deal that I had with her. And so we agreed that, and that's what we did. But within 3 months, I was earning more than my salary, and that was it. That was thereafter, I just stayed in the business and grew it to a multi-million-pound business.
That's awesome. So what did you feel like you had to put in place before you were able to start your own business? Obviously the quitting your job thing helped a lot because you were able to now devote a lot of time, but were there other things that were missing? Because you mentioned too that one big thing was that you didn't see other kind of role models, other people in your life that were following this entrepreneurial path, but then you started seeing that or started feeling that. Like, what else did you feel like you had to put in place before you were able to kind of take the leap into entrepreneurship?
I suppose I just needed to believe I could do it. I suppose if you when you start doing it in the evening, the beauty of the internet, I suppose, is that you can join affiliate programs and you can generate money that way. You don't need to buy massive amounts of stock or anything like that. You don't need any stock or offices. You can just literally start. So I started just to prove to myself that I could do this. And when you start seeing the money coming into the affiliate programs, you can start seeing that, yeah, this is real. I can do this. And when that sort of grew up to, I can't remember what it would have been when I finished my job, maybe £1,000, £2,000 a month or something like that. I started seeing real numbers coming in and started thinking, yeah, if I could do this full time, if I could put everything into it, then I could maybe make that £5,000 a month or something like that. And that's what I needed, was just evidence that I could do it.
I think one important thing to talk about is this idea of quitting your job and going in, because you had this feeling in the back of your head or back of your mind that if you just had more time, you could grow the business faster. And I think this is a stage that a lot of maybe listeners, other entrepreneurs are at, where they're trying to decide when is that point, because there is a certain I guess stage of your business where time is the limiting factor, and sometimes it's not the limiting factor. How were you able to I guess identify that it was time that was the issue?
Because I think it was that year that I'd spent, I sort of felt confident that I knew I could, I'd made some mistakes. I'd learned some stuff that I didn't know. So, for example, say my SEO skills, they were probably not up to scratch when I first started. But by the end of that year, I could get traffic to certain pages. And so I just knew that if I had more time, I could send traffic to more pages. I could actually optimize more pages, and therefore I'd get more money. I knew that page was generating, I don't know, £1,000 a month. Therefore, if I had more pages, I would get more money. It just felt the right time. I just felt confident. I obviously looked at some competitors who were earning a lot more money. I knew what some of them were earning, very roughly, but I could see their traffic and I could see they weren't that much better than what my site was, but they just had more pages or they had more links. And I just thought, well, if I can have more time, I would get more money. I just felt, you just get immersed in it. You get a little bit obsessed, I suppose, but you just look very closely at other people that are just next ladder, rung up the ladder than you. You just think, well, I could catch them if I had a bit more time.
Yeah, so you pretty much knew exactly how you would spend your days, because what you were working on, it was so directly tied to revenue, so directly tied to sales, that you knew that if you just had more time to put into it, then it would actually equate to sales. I think that's an important point, because if you can't imagine what you would do with your time if you were to quit your job, I think it might be a little bit too early, because you don't have something that you could scale up just by applying more time to it. But you were able to identify that, which sounds like the reason why you were able to explode the business so quickly when you had more time.
Yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm. So what did you definitely want to move into more of the e-commerce side? So what lessons did you learn though from running this business, either SEO wise or marketing wise, that you're able to grow such a successful, such a profitable business in just a couple of years?
I think it was right time. So it wasn't just me being really good. It was just basically the right time as well, that everybody was becoming more aware of these types of coupon code websites. I got in early enough, so there was lots of competition when I got in, but there wasn't hundreds and hundreds of competition. So a lot of it was timing. But I did have a background. My full-time job was as a digital marketing person, so I did have a lot of knowledge of that sector. So I just felt that a lot of the other people that I was competing with, either they didn't have that previous experience, or they didn't have, they got there through a little bit of luck as well, possibly, and good timing from them. So I suppose it was just a race as such to grow and keep those positions. And Google at the time was fairly, not easy, it was maybe a little bit over-egging it, but they were reasonably easy to reverse engineer and understand exactly what you needed to do to generate rankings. Whereas now, because of Panda and Penguin, is much more tricky to understand. So at the time, it was something that you could understand. I need to get this amount of links. I need to get the quality content on the site. You could actually do that and realize what was required. And as long as you were prepared to put the grind in to get it done, you could get the money coming in.
Mm-hmm. So you mentioned that this is a lot to do with timing. Was it something that you saw coming, or maybe the question I want to ask is, for someone out there that's thinking about starting a business, getting into a specific industry, are there like signs they can look out for to see that, okay, I'm going to be riding, I found a wave that's going to be growing over time rather than flatlining or declining?
Yeah, I think there probably are a couple of signals. There's probably one of the ones for me was people were starting to boast about how much money they were earning in this particular space. And so when people start boasting about things, then you start realizing there must be some really good money there to be earned. And it was just, you just see it popping up. You see more and more popping up in different blogs, people talking about it, or even newspapers. It's difficult to, obviously that you can be too early for things, but I think for this, you just it's very difficult to define exactly, but you just get a gut feel that when something is a market saturated or being done before, yes, you can still enter it if you've got a different twist on it. But in general, this sort of sector wasn't swamped at the time. There was a fair few people in there, but it wasn't super professional. Everybody was in there, and you knew the really super professional people with money behind them was going to come. So I just jumped in and tried it for a fair few months. I did a whole year, but it wasn't a whole year on the coupon code website. So I did probably, I don't know, 6 months before I left my full-time job. So I just proved to myself that it could work. But yeah, you just get a gut feel when you really immerse yourself in a certain space.
Yeah, and the window seems, 3 years, can seem long to some people, but it's a very short period of time. Like that window is not that large for you to sometimes identify opportunities, get in, and it looks like you got out, before it kind of got oversaturated. So I think it's definitely a skill if you can develop, definitely a valuable skill you can develop, but then you also have to move quickly once you identify. You can't just recognize it and then take your time either.
No, exactly.
Cool. So let's move on to after you sold the business, you had a good amount of money that you could live off of, or give you at least the time to start other businesses. So Body Hack Limited, tell us a little bit more about that. Like, so you mentioned it was basically like a heavy content site with then basically a store attached to it as well.
Yeah, the idea was, I mean, if you think of, in this country, we've got insurance comparison sites where basically you put in certain details and the cheapest insurance for you comes to the top. The idea was we were going to do that for fitness programs. If you wanted a vegan weight loss program, you'd put those details in and we would have had 10, 20 different vegan diets and fitness exercise programs would have been trialed by people, and the ones that had the best results would float to the top. And that was the idea. And then you could just click a link, buy that particular program, so you get the full details of what the person ate and all the exercise they did. But it just was very, very time consuming to produce each one of those programs. And as I said, I was one of the guinea pigs for that. So that was 3 months work. That really, you have to watch everything you eat, record everything you do, record all the exercise you do. It's very time consuming. I just thought to scale this up, it's either going to cost a load of money, and just the signals weren't coming into me that people were really going to do this. I mean, the first sort of week we went live, I got onto the homepage of Hacker News. We got a ton of traffic, people buying the programs. I think almost in the first day we sort of done hundreds of pounds worth of programs. I was just thinking, wow, this is going to go somewhere. But that quickly died down again, and we had about 5 male programs in the site. And people wanted female ones, and we just knew that it's going to take another 3 months to put the females through the site. It just, it was something you couldn't do badly, if you know what I mean. You almost needed hundreds and hundreds to start from day one. But I didn't want to commit to producing hundreds and hundreds of programs in case when I produced them, people didn't want to buy them. So it was a little bit of a chicken and egg, and I decided to not commit to producing hundreds of programs. It was going to cost me a lot of money. So sort of shelved the idea, sort of slowly sort of ramped it down and started looking around for other opportunities.
So I think this is, I heard this issue too on a previous podcast, which was about selling essentially digital products, right? Products that are not necessarily physical and that you actually had to produce essentially in-house. And one of the biggest issues with that is that every time you want to create a new product line, you can't just necessarily outsource it, or it would be very expensive. Like you're saying, you have to constantly be churning out your own content, churning out these different programs. So was that the biggest issue? Was just that the production of the product line, essentially the programs, was so heavy, or was it because I think you said something previous too about how the customers of the clients, I guess, of your site, of your programs, it was also overly complicated for them?
I suppose somebody told my friends how to do it. For them, yes, sometimes it is too complicated. People want a quick solution to their fitness problems or their weight problems, and when this is why sometimes the ones that do the best are the ones that tell you it is a quick fix. I mean, we've got a magazine here in the office at the moment. We get sent some free magazines. This is a 1 week fat loss program. You're not going to lose any fat in 1 week, but when you tell people that this is going to be say 12 weeks of harder work, then they don't want to listen so much. So I think that is a slight downside, that when you tell the truth, people don't want to it's not as attractive to them. When people give a quick fix, even though the people telling you a quick fix probably know themselves that it's not going to work, but people just like those quick fixes. But that's not our attitude. We want to tell people the truth, and for some people it was too complicated.
Makes sense. Okay, so from Body Hack Limited, and then you decided then, is that when you realized that it was such a hard process to create these programs, that's when you decided to look elsewhere? Or how did you come across the idea of creating Huel?
Well, the whey proteins were just so convenient. I just felt that, it's not the exercise that necessarily makes people lose fat. It's ensuring they're consuming the right calories, i.e., a deficit of calories. Mm-hmm. And the only way to do that, if you've got a plate of food in front of you, unless you've weighed all of that food, it's very difficult to know exactly how many calories you're having. So you're guessing. And if you're guessing on calories, you're certainly guessing on macro and micronutrients. You don't really know what you're eating. So when I was using the protein shakes, it just made perfect sense. I was just looking at it thinking, well, I know exactly how much protein I'm getting. Why don't I just put my carbs in there and the fat in there and the micronutrients? Just make perfect sense. And the one key thing for me as well is when I started talking to my friends about it, they said, what are you doing next? And usually when I tell them about what I'm doing, they don't take that much notice. But when I started explaining Huel to them, you could see their sort of interest be raised. And so they were looking at me like, I want to know more about this. And so I started thinking, I'm not actually forcing to tell them. They're actually interested in asking me questions. So, and I was a customer of their own product as well. I wanted that product as well. So for me, it was something that I wanted. My friends were interested in it. They wanted it. And I thought, well, they're usually highly critical. They're not going to be people who are just going to say to me, oh, that's a wonderful idea. When they don't believe it, they'll tell me if they think it's rubbish. So the good news was that I got those early signals that this was definitely something that would work.
Yeah, this is a lesson that I've learned previously too. That's more, I think, in a software space, but I think is really applicable anywhere. Which is that when you're selling things to people, selling products to people, you want to sell them things. It's a lot easier to sell them things that end up reducing the work that they have to do than requiring them to do more work. And that sounds like the kind of issue. And looking back, 2020 is hindsight's 2020. But looking back on Body Hack compared to Huel, Body Hack required people to do more work by purchasing this thing that they're buying, while Huel, when they purchased it reduced the amount of work that they had to do because now they don't have to, count all these macros and calories and all of that, like you're saying. So I think that's an important point to make, is that it's a lot easier to sell something if it makes the person's life easier, not necessarily harder. So I think that's an important point. So, when you started Huel, were there parts of Body Hack that you were able to, I guess, use as a launching pad for Huel, or was it a brand starting from scratch?
It was sort of starting from scratch. I mean, the Body Hack website still exists. It hurts me to think I've got to shut it down one day. But yeah, I've kept it alive. It's still there. You can't actually buy the programs. I don't even know why it's still alive, but no, it's still there. But there was no launch pad really from it at all. This was a brand new business as such, brand new brand. And, I just knew that branding was going to be really, really important because food products, you can't trademark or patent the recipes. So I just knew in the long term that brand's going to be really important. So the example I would give is like something like a Red Bull. There's lots of copycats of Red Bull. And so we just felt that Huel needed to have really strong branding.
Makes sense that branding is important. I didn't think about that, but like you're saying, you can't hide the ingredients. People can't figure it out anyway. So that's why branding is so important. So when you decided to start Huel, what were the first steps? Like, did you have to go through a period of creating the products? Like, how do you even begin to create your own essentially food product?
Well, the first thing was for me, because I'm not a nutritionist. I'd worked with a nutritionist in the past, but I needed to find, the best nutritionist I could find to work with to make sure the formula was going to be, as good as it could be from a nutrition point of view. So that was really important. I'm not in this to make money. Clearly, it's a business, but this is not my. I don't need to do that. So one thing I wanted to do was make sure I'm not making a crappy product. I wanted to make something that I was really proud of. So I wanted to find the best nutritionist I could, and that was the first step, was to find a nutritionist, and together we put together the program, the formula.
So was it like a trial and error thing, or did you guys pretty much know these were the ingredients you wanted and then just put it together that way?
Well, James Collier, he's got 25 years experience in nutrition. He works with MMA fighters. He works with strongmen. He works with bodybuilders. So he really knows the industry really well, and he just knows nutrition, just so clearly that he really quite quickly we put the formula together. He just knew what were good products. So our main carb source is oats. It's a natural product. It's full of phytonutrients. It's got protein, fats, and carbs in it. It's just a really, really good product. So he just knew those sorts of things straight away. And he said that would be, the core for the carb source in terms of the balance of micro, macro nutrients. He just knew everything straight away. So pretty quickly, the formula we got today is pretty close to the original one we created pretty quickly.
So once you have this formula, do you have to go to a specific producer? Like, how do you, when you're creating a food product, how is it different than, I'm not sure how much experience you have with other kind of physical products, but based on your experience, how is it different than just getting like clothing made, for example?
I don't know about clothing, but my background has always been pretty much website stuff. And for a website, you can turn a website around, pretty quickly. When I first started, we put the formula together pretty quickly. We got the branding done pretty quickly. We got the website done pretty quickly. I just assumed the product would get done within, say, I think originally I thought about 3 months. It took us nearly a year to get to market. It was just so slow. It's really, really, physical products are just a different beast to websites. It's just so much harder. There's so many more things to think about, and just the industry is just so much slower. You don't have control anymore. With the website, you can either code it yourself or get someone to code it, or you can use a platform like WordPress or Shopify. And it's just physical product is really so hard. It's so frustrating. People would let us down. We had people, even like really big, well-known multinational companies said, yeah, we can do this. And we worked with them, multiple emails backwards and forwards, meetings. And then 4 months in, they said, no, sorry, we're pulling out, and don't even give a valid reason. It was just really, really frustrating.
So if you had to start from scratch or start over again and go down this process again, like what kind of things would you make sure to do, at least that were in your control, to make it go smoother?
I don't know whether there is. We're making another product at the moment, and we're experiencing the same things over again. It is so difficult. So we're making a different form factor at the moment. And so we had to deal with different manufacturers. Our current manufacturer couldn't produce it. So we've been dealing with quite reputable people who deal with new product development, and they've let us down. They worked with us for sort of nearly on 3 months, and the product they produced was just not up to scratch at all, just like way off. Manufacturers, we've searched and searched and searched. We've met multiple ones, and we're dealing with some at the moment of making the right noises, but we're still not there. I mean, we nearly had this product out last October. So, it's going to be lucky if we're out this October. Again, it's another year to get to market. I mean, it's just lucky that I had some money behind me. If you're starting off from scratch today and you're dealing in a physical product, you've got to be, forewarned that it's a lot harder to do. If it was my choice, and if I didn't have money behind me, then I wouldn't go into physical products. I'd go into website stuff, make some money from those first, and then go and try and do a physical product later.
Interesting. So I definitely want to talk about that point. But before we move off of this topic, what goes wrong, I guess, in this process? What kind of things should other entrepreneurs that are thinking about physical products, or maybe even specifically food products, what things can they expect, not necessarily expect, but to look out for that might go wrong during this year-long process for you?
I think the first thing is the one thing after we just came up against brick wall after brick wall after brick wall. We said to people, why is this so hard to get something to the market? And one of the after asking multiple manufacturers, one of them did actually say, he said, look, the reason is we get approached all the time by startups or people with just an idea for a product, and most of them are just flaky. They're not going to come through with anything. Either they've got no money behind them, or it's just an idea they've got, and they're not going to market it right, and they're not going to. So we're going to spend a load of time developing a product when we could be making something for somebody who's already successful. So why would we spend our time to produce a product for you, and then we make it, you order, I don't know, a small batch of, say, 5,000, when usually they're used to dealing with batches of 50,000, 100,000 plus. So we're going to make a small batch for you. So economies of scale are going to be poor. We spent a lot of time to develop it. Then you get that batch of 5,000, you go away, you can't sell it because you've got no market, or you just haven't done your marketing right. And we don't get a reorder. So it's just a lot of wasted time and energy for us. So that's why. And one of them said we get hundreds of requests every week from startups or from small companies. So in general, it's just we just don't touch them. And that was the only. So in terms of advice, what I can give, I don't really know how to counter that. The only way you can do is you have to just keep banging away, and eventually you'll find somebody. Maybe just pick smaller companies, smaller startups themselves that are actually manufacturers, or even consider making it yourself, which we've done with our latest product. We've actually started looking at machinery to do it ourselves. But again, that's a big capital investment to do that. So I'm not sure I can give very good advice, especially in the food industry. It's just very, very tricky to get something to market that doesn't exist today.
So all their attention, all these attentions from the manufacturers are focused on their existing large clients, and then working with smaller brand new companies is highly risky for them. So that's why they tend to, I guess, divert resources from you or from new companies over to the existing relationships. That makes sense. So are there ways then that you found to get manufacturers to, I guess, believe in you, or believe in your abilities, or believe in your company more?
Well, the last meeting we had, which went very well, we had to actually I said, "Do you want to see our sales figures?" And they said, "No, we don't need to see them. We trust you." I said, "No, I think I'm going to actually show you." So we got our sales figures out for the last 12 months, and we started going through them and showing them to say, "Look, we're not a Mickey Mouse company. We are legit. We will generate volume, and we just need your help to get this product to market. And once we do, I'm pretty sure this new product will be more successful than our current one. So we will generate these sorts of volumes and this sort of growth." And that's what we can do now, but we've got that behind us. But if you're starting from scratch, you don't even have that to use. So it is even trickier. Luckily, what we did is if you search the internet and find manufacturers, you're going to find probably the bigger ones first. Sometimes you have to start lower down the list for companies which are smaller that you might not have heard of, and they might be on third, fourth, fifth page of Google, and try and find the smaller ones. And of course, they're going to be keener to work with new people because they don't have big clients at the moment. They're actually looking for clients themselves. So that's the only sort of advice I can probably give is you need to start at the smallest company you can find, not the first companies you find.
That makes a lot of sense, because if you are the smallest client for a manufacturer, the only way to grow sometimes when you're brand new is to go find a smaller manufacturer so that you become a much more, attractive client for them, because they're looking for clients. They're more desperate, I guess, for clients than the much larger manufacturers. And so do you recommend, or do you personally go after or work with multiple manufacturers at once to avoid this issue of people dropping out along the way?
Well, luckily, the manufacturer we're working with at the moment has been very good to us. We've been with the same manufacturer for the last year. They're very good. They do deal with other small businesses, but we're now their biggest client. And they've got a dedicated manufacturing plant for us now as well. So I'm not really sure what else they deal with in terms of smaller clients. But yeah, I think that they were very surprised at our growth, and therefore they might be a little bit more open to dealing with new startups now, because they can see that it can work. And this is where manufacturers probably just shoot themselves in the foot a little bit by turning everybody down. They're probably missing opportunities sometimes.
So after you were finally able to, as before that, while you're in the process of creating Huel for the first time over that entire year, were you just putting Huel on the back burner, or were you focused on the marketing? What were you focused on during that year while you're waiting for the product to be finished on the more sales and marketing side?
I don't even know how that year passed really, but we felt busy, but we didn't achieve a great deal. So it was a lot of time and effort trying to find people, trying to persuade people. We were working with people, but just they were letting us down. So we were still working. It's just they didn't actually produce at the end of sometimes 4 months, or we were working with other people for 2 months and going backwards and forwards to their offices up and down the country, meeting them. So we were busy in that time. We weren't super, super busy, but we were busy. And I suppose the rest of the time I was just literally just pulling my hair out, getting really frustrated and trying to get too frustrated, because I think it just is a very slow process. And you just have to at the start of it, I was very used to dealing with sort of websites that I could turn around very quickly. And I think, that's another piece of advice I give to somebody, that just accept that it's going to take a long time to produce something, and don't sort of get too frustrated and, end up shouting at people or something like that, because it's a slow process. They've got other clients to deal with. They're not necessarily set up to do new product development. And this is one thing that, I did talk to some other guys and say, why don't you have like a separate unit, like a smaller unit, where you can just experiment and do smaller runs of products, not having to go into the main production line where, the demands are much higher in terms of initial numbers. So you can experiment and get some smaller businesses off the ground. But there just aren't that many people who specialize in new product development.
So were you, during this year then of waiting for something to be produced, were you driving traffic or building buzz around Huel?
No, we weren't at all, because again, it was just from Body Hack, I'd put quite a lot of money into that, and that didn't go anywhere. So I suppose I was always a little bit hesitant to put too much money behind this one, especially when it's not just my money, it's my wife's money, my child's money, to put it behind another product that might go nowhere. So I was always a little bit hesitant. So we didn't spend too much this time until we actually got to market. And then once we started seeing the initial sales coming through, then it was much easier to have that discussion to say, look, I'm going to put some more money behind this.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so now that you finally got the manufacturer and you are ready to put some money to invest into the business, how are you driving the traffic or the sales early on?
The early sales came through Facebook groups. Sometimes that's accidental as well. I went on a couple of Facebook groups. There was one Facebook group that was about startups. It was quite big, about 17,000. And I can remember I just went on there asking, these are genuine questions. I wasn't promoting Huel at all. I was literally just asking some genuine questions about how to do certain things. And, I mentioned we just launched. And that was some of the earliest sales came through that.
Yeah, this is it sounds to be, I guess, a more popular, I guess, strategy now. Facebook groups all of a sudden come back into the marketing, I guess, mix for a lot of businesses. Is that still something that you focus on? Maybe I'm not sure if at this scale if you bother doing Facebook groups, but is that a recommended approach for other entrepreneurs that are just starting out to get involved in these communities?
I think it's definitely worth getting involved. I mean, I did that for my benefit in terms of the startup advice I was getting or the contacts I was getting rather than pushing the company. But certainly I noticed that I would definitely get sales from that group. So those initial sales could be useful. I don't think it's something that's going to, as you say, drive significant sales. But in your first early sales, they're really important just to give you confidence this is the right place to go. So yeah, I definitely recommend it for the really early days.
Mm-hmm. So then from there on, and once you start getting the first sales in the door, it sounded like you felt more confident in investing more into this business. What was the next step? Like what kind of, marketing process or system did you envision setting up for Huel?
The PR was the next big thing that we did. So we got a PR agency in, spent a bit of money on that. It wasn't too expensive. And that went really, really well. We've been on TV a couple of times. We've been in most of the national newspapers in the UK, quite a few magazines as well, quite a few blogs. So that initial PR worked for us in two ways. One, it worked in terms of traffic and sales, but it also worked in terms of credibility. I think selling a food product is something, people are going to put that product inside their body. They've never heard of your company before, but if they can see a logo to say that this has been on the BBC, this has been on CNN, this has been in the Daily Mail, I think it gives people a little bit more confidence that this is a legit product, it's not something made in somebody's garage.
So is this the first step that you recommend others try to once they're ready to start scaling up their marketing is to invest in PR?
Yeah, definitely. I think PR is something that the downside of PR that it's not directly measurable and it's not guaranteed you're going to get anything. So if your product is just not newsworthy, then probably not worth spending money on PR because you probably won't get any PR. But if your product is interesting, newsworthy, and you find a good PR agency, then yes, I think it probably would be a wise move.
So do you think that you could have had some similar success with PR without hiring a PR agency, or is this, you think, definitely highly, advantageous for somebody to look for a PR agency?
I think to just kickstart it, I think it's definitely important. We got quite a lot of PR or interest directly. We got called from some TV, we got called from some radio and some press just directly, just because they'd seen us either through on Facebook or they'd seen us in other articles. But I think if you don't kickstart it, it's quite hard to get it going. So I think maybe, even if your budgets are very small, maybe we only did it for the first 3 months. After launch, we did it for the first 3 months, and then we paused the campaign to see if we could survive without spending the money on the PR. So that's something which I probably would recommend. If you're really short money, maybe just spend a month or two. Tell the PR agency, look, I want to do a 2 month test. I want to launch this product with PR, and ask them if they think they can get PR. If they're confident they can get it, and you get the price, and the price is right for you, then it's definitely worth getting it, because those logos of you being in the press will stay with you forever. You can keep those forever. You've always been in that publication. So similar to when they launch a film, you get those little quotes underneath a film saying, the Daily Mail says this, or the Guardian says this about a particular film and gives it a star rating. Those things do add credibility and do add confidence to the buyer. So I think, it probably would be wise if you've got an interesting product.
I like that you're mentioning hiring a PR agency to kind of kick off this snowball effect of additional PR, because once you have the features in these popular publications, then other publications are going to want to talk to you as well because they've discovered through there, or like you have all these amazing logos on your site that gives you, again, credibility with your customers, like you're saying. And then when you do want to go out and pitch to other publications, you have all of this kind of like pedigree essentially that you can point to on your resume and say, look, all of these other publications have already featured us, and it makes it a lot easier to pitch. So when someone does, if an entrepreneur or business out there wants to consider this, and you don't have to review how much you paid, but like what kind of budget levels do you need to at least be open to before this even makes sense?
I would probably say you can probably get, it's like anything like web development, you can probably get it very cheap and you can get it very expensive. I would say that somewhere between £3,000 and £5,000 per month will get you a pretty decent agency with a pretty decent campaign. I suppose in general they charge around £500 a day for a reasonable agency. So you're basically buying the amount of days they're going to put in per month. I suppose you could maybe get away with a day or two with some agencies, but most will probably want a minimum of, say, 5 days. That's 2,500, something like that.
Okay, makes sense. So how should you prepare? If you are about to hire a PR agency, like, are there things that you need to make sure that you're ready to do so you can take the most advantage of these days that you're purchasing?
I would say you definitely need to have some photographs ready. So I had to get some headshots for myself. Obviously, you want to get some good shots of your product, because what they're going to do, if they're going to write about you, they're going to want a picture of yourself, if the founder, and they're going to want a picture of your product. And they need to be good products, product shots, not something you photograph yourself. So I'd spend a little bit of money on those. I'm not talking mega money. You can probably spend as little as £25 per shot from a good local photographer. And so you need those. You need to have, obviously they're going to produce a press release for you, but you need to work with them on the first press release and also write a good sort of summary of what the product is and the benefits that it offers. So somebody would hopefully write sometimes the benefits and what the product is in your words, because sometimes they just take what's straight from the press release. So you need to get those things really sort of worked out first before you start issuing it, get the story straight as such. And that's it, really, I think. I suppose the only other thing is sometimes, such as doing these podcasts, sometimes I've done a couple of these now. Buy yourself a half-decent microphone. I hope it sounds good today. And those types of things can make you sound a bit more professional, hopefully. And, that should be enough.
Yeah, I think that's great, the preparation plan, because you don't want to end up spending £500 a day and all of a sudden waste the whole day, not have everything prepared, and kind of not make the most use out of the campaign that you have set up. And so one thing you mentioned earlier was about before you even consider using PR as a marketing channel, your product and your company, your business, you need to have some kind of story. It needs to be newsworthy. Can you talk a little bit more about that? Like, how do you know if your product is actually newsworthy or not?
I suppose you just got to think from a journalist point of view. There's millions of products out there, and they get approached every day by somebody selling a new product, like a new beer or a new drink or something like that. And you've got to think, what is the angle from them? What are they going to write that's newsworthy? So Huel was newsworthy because the angle they took was to say, you can replace all of your food. You don't need to eat food again, even though Huel is food, just in a different format. But it's not traditional food in sense of it's a powder. You can't see what's there. So people sort of, some of the news stories were about the Matrix. In there, they have a product which is everything you need in a single meal. So they had, they could have a little bit of fun with it. They could actually play with it. Whereas if you've just said, I've launched a new beer and it tastes better than other people's beers, that's not newsworthy. If you said, I've launched a new beer that's there's been new ones recently. They've got brandy in them or vodka in it, something different. So those sorts of things sometimes. But if you said, I've just launched a new beer and all of our staff are, different in some way, then that might be newsworthy. You've got to think it through from a journalist point of view. Can they play with the idea? Is it something they can associate with something else? Is it a growing trend of something? But if you just launch a new product, you want to get the press, but the press don't want to write about you.
Yeah, even if they were to accept a story about you, or even if the PR agency was able to sell it to a publication, if it's not newsworthy or interesting, then you're not going to get the kind of, I guess, publicity, or you're not going to get the kind of I guess virality from it anyway, because no one's going to be interested in hearing about another beer product. It needs to have some kind of story behind it. That makes a lot of sense. So let's talk about actually running the business itself. So when you started it, was it just you, and then you had a co-founder? Like, when did you guys start scaling the team up?
Pretty quickly, I think, because the orders started coming in quite quick, and I was picking and packing the orders myself. I had a very small little warehouse. I was doing that myself, and quite quickly, I just couldn't handle the orders myself. So the delivery van would come in at 2:00, and I was rushing around all morning trying to pick the orders, put them in the boxes, make sure that it was correct, send emails to customers. It was just quite quickly, it became too much. So I took on an assistant, and together we used to do the orders in the morning, and we used to do work in the afternoon. And then quite quickly, it was ended up taking the whole day. We weren't able to do any work apart from picking and packing. So then what we did, we outsourced the fulfillment to a fulfillment house, which then freed up our day totally. That then me and the assistant could work full time on growing the business. And then we just slowly scaled from there.
So how do you make the decision to what's your thought process or decision making process around outsourcing a task versus keeping it in house, or maybe even just keeping it within you?
It was a simple calculation, really. What we worked out was the delivery charge we were being charged plus the cost of the box. So what we did is worked out it's going to cost us this amount to deliver. I think it was off the top of my head, say it was £6. Plus, there's the time that it took to do each box. We had time how long it take us to do each box, the cost of each box, the packing that goes in each box. So we totaled that. The fulfillment house was slightly more expensive, but then we just believed that our time was worth more than what that slight increase was, and therefore it's just a simple calculation.
Makes sense. So now, what do you, I guess, spend your time doing? Like, what is your day to day like when you wake up, walk into the office? Like, how do you spend your days?
Well, the thing is, there's 5 of us in the office now, and when I first started, I ran the business by myself. I mean, it's amazing how much time just gets swallowed up just doing different things. So, for example, when we first launched, I had looked this morning, the orders per month, we're now doing 3,700% more in last month than we did equivalent of June 2015. So it's grown extremely quickly. And so it's just so much more to do. Everything scales up. There's more customer service. There's more Facebook. There's more replies. There's more social media. There's more photography required. There's new product development. So it's just a myriad of different tasks. Then you've got more team to manage. You've got to instruct them what to do. I don't know. Sometimes I don't know what I do, but I just know I'm incredibly busy, and I just struggle to keep up with my emails at the moment.
Makes sense. So how successful is the business today? Like you said, the 3,700% growth from last year to the I guess the previous year, and comparing those 2 months. How successful is the business today?
We do, in the first 12 months, we did over £2 million in revenue. We have sold over 1.5 million meals. This is 500-calorie meals. We've got over 200,000 visitors to the website per month, and we've got tens of thousands of paying customers. So that gives you a rough idea of the scale.
That's amazing. Yeah, what would you credit this kind of fast growth to? Because these are obviously amazing numbers, but even more amazing within just this kind of a short time frame. Especially the 2 million pounds you said within the first 12 months. Like, was it just all PR? Like, what would you credit it to as well? Just like growing that quickly.
I think it's a product that people wanted. I don't think people even knew that this product could exist. We've done quite a good job of making it, getting it into the press and making people aware this product exists. But I think people just want this. I think there's so many people, what we often say is clearly whole food is, if you get a nutritionally complete meal, if you know what you're doing, if you can construct a meal out of whole foods that's nutritionally complete, got all the fatty acids you need, all the essential amino acids and all the essential vitamins and minerals, then that's the best thing you can do. If you've got time to do that, that's brilliant. Please carry on and do that. But the majority of people don't have the time to do that, or they don't have the knowledge of how to construct food, a meal that's nutritionally complete. And so they end up, obviously in the UK, the most popular lunch will probably be a sandwich. The most popular snack will probably be crisps or chocolate. The most popular breakfast will probably be toast. And most of those, or all of those, will be more processed than usual and less nutritious, and certainly not nutritionally complete. So I think people are aware. I mean, in this country, we've got 64% of people are overweight. We've got a real epidemic almost with diabetes. And, we've got numerous other problems. People are aware that, sometimes the way animals are treated in farms is inhumane. So she was a vegan product. So there's lots of things that people are aware of, and they know there's a problem with our food chain, and they didn't really know what the solution was. They know they should probably eat in healthy, but every time you pick up a newspaper or magazine, there's almost a different story than there was the week before. So people do get confused about what they should be eating or not eating. But with Fuel the Beauty, it's already done for you. We focus on this heavily. We know what we're talking about. So we've created a product which is healthy, it's nutritionally complete, it's balanced, it's using sustainable resources. It's minimal packaging, it's high in fiber, it's high in protein, it's very, very low in sugar. So we've basically created a product that ticks a lot of boxes for people, and therefore that's why the sales have been so good, because it just satisfies the demand that people have got.
I think you sold me. I think it's funny because I live in New York City, and you see this trend happening where maybe a couple of years ago there's a big big service in just delivering food, right? People don't want to go through the shopping experience, don't want to have to deal with purchasing food, and then it's become more and more, I guess, done for you, whereas now they deliver the food to you with specific recipes that you can make, and now it's gotten to a point where it's all meal prepping for you to deliver it as well. So more and more easy to eat healthy, but now this is a step even more convenient where you don't have to put anything together, you don't have to think about it, and then just kind of consume it. I think that makes a lot of sense. That the trend that you've been able to notice and kind of hitch onto is that people want to be healthy, but they just the time that they have to do it has just become more and more limiting. So I think you've definitely hit on a market here. Obviously, it's due to your success. So tell us a little bit about, I guess, running the business itself. So you have a team already. You have obviously you're super busy. Do you depend on any tools or apps to help you run the business?
Yeah, I just had a quick look at our apps this morning. So we use Bold Apps, recurring orders. So we do subscriptions on Huel as well. We use S Loyalty, which is a refer a friend scheme, but unfortunately they've actually stopped the refer a friend part of that app now. We use Spently for email, and we use a couple of survey apps, and I can't remember what their names are off the top of my head. They're the main apps that we do use. We do outsource quite a lot. Like I said, we've outsourced the fulfillment. We sort of outsource the manufacturing. We outsource graphic design. We outsource our Facebook ads, and there's one other thing as well. It might come to me in a second. But yeah, we do believe in outsourcing. The beauty of that is that you don't need to take full-time staff on. You use resources when you need them. Yes, they can be more expensive, but it's much easier to scale up and scale down very quickly. And sometimes the best resources, they want to be freelancers themselves because they're very good, or they run an agency. They just are very good. So we prefer to do that if we can.
Yeah, I think outsourcing is definitely a great I guess, step towards a step before hiring a team, right? Just being able to send out specific tasks, specific responsibilities, and not have to have a full-time person working on it. But then I guess the potential issue is that I'm assuming most of them are going to be remote. Do you have any, tips on how to manage a team of outsourced freelancers when they are not necessarily in the same office as you?
Yeah, definitely. The two big things that we use Basecamp, which is basically a task list system that everybody can log into, and that's got alerts that it sends out when you add a task, and then it's got a comment thread. Because if you use email, this is one thing I learned a very long time ago. Emails get lost, and the chain gets broken, and things get forgotten. But with Basecamp, you put a task there, and it's not gone until I tick it gone. So it stays there. So if I ever got to see what somebody's due to do, I don't need to search for my email or remember they should have done this task. It's there until they say, Can I tick this off? And I'll look at it and I go, yeah, I'll tick it off, and I'll tick that box, and then it's gone. So Basecamp definitely, and Google Docs obviously is another one. We can work with each other remotely, and of course Skype. Skype's been very good. James Collier, the co-founder, he's actually based about a 2-hour drive from here, but he used to come down once a week, but it was like a 2-hour drive, then it's a 2-hour drive home, so actually that day would be less productive. And so now I say, well, you just stay at home, and now we speak more often. We got Skype set up, we do video Skype, and we probably sometimes Skype 3, 4, 5, 6 times a day.
Wow, awesome. So thanks so much again for your time, Julian. So Huel.com is a website, HUEL.com. Anywhere else you recommend our listeners go and check out if they want to follow along with what you're up to or what Huel's up to?
Yeah, we're on social media. So Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. They're all Get Fuel is the handle.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll link all that in the show notes as well so people can check it out very easily. So, again, thanks for your time, Julian.
Sure, thank you. Also, I want to say thank you to you because when I first started this company, one of the things that I was searching around on what platform to use. So it's either WordPress, Magento, or Shopify. I found your podcast, and after listening to quite a few episodes, I realized there was a sort of community around Shopify. And when you realize there's community around something, you realize that it's going to grow and get better and better because more and more people are putting time and effort into it. So basically, your podcast is part of the reason why I've got Shopify, and I think Shopify is part of the reason we're successful today. So I need to thank you.
Oh, awesome! That's great to hear. I definitely appreciate that.
I can remember literally walking my dog, listening to you, listening to some of these, and each time I listen to it, like you say, there's a gem. That's the key word, I think. Each time you listen to a podcast, there's one or two gems that you can use in your business that makes a difference to your business. So I've listened to, I don't know, it's hundreds of your podcasts, but I listened to absolutely loads of them. And each time there's one or two gems that I use in the business.
Thanks for listening to Shopify Masters, the e-commerce marketing podcast for ambitious entrepreneurs. To start your store today, visit shopify.com/masters to claim your extended 30-day free trial.